Hello, we are the Salon Sleuths. My name is Melissa,
And my name is Leslie.
and we are two women from the Pacific Northwest. We are both curious about paranormals, spirit guides, ghosts, past lives.
We are suspicious about true crime, disappearances, and strange phenomenons. We are open to learning about the supernatural and all things we don't understand.
Together, we're opinionated with a splash of smartass. Join us to learn. And stay curious, stay suspicious, and stay open.
Follow Salon Sleuths on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, Salon Sleuth fans. And Leslie, how are you?
Doing well, Melissa, and yourself?
Good. I'm just like a singing fool this morning. What's going on?
I don't know. You sing a lot, though. You have a good voice, so I guess you
I
can do
do.
that.
I don't think I have a good voice. I just think I sing a lot. Like I will be the one in Safeway that is singing along to the yacht rock.
Mm.
Yeah.
I hum a lot, but I
Oh.
do it and I don't even know that I do it. So,
Well, I sing and I don't know that I'm singing, but I
oh,
will tell you that I feel like the Sherwood Target does not have music, but other Targets do. I swear. I don't actually know this. I need to like really test this out, but I think they do. And when I'm in the Target, I'm like, why is it so quiet in here? It seems odd. And so I feel like when I'm in a store, I need to have a little music.
okay. And
I
then
don't
if
know.
you don't, you make it.
I, that sometimes happens. Do you ever wake up from a night's sleep with a song in your head?
Yes.
How does that even happen?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Did you go to bed with it? Was it in your
No,
dream and you just were continuing on the song while you were dreaming? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, if it was in my dream, I don't remember it, but that did not happen to me today. However, I was not prepared to talk about this, but I am going to because it was very disturbing. I had a dream last night, and please, my wonder of all things, tell me what this dream means.
Okay.
I had a dream that I was in a bar and I had went to the restroom and I'd come back and I was getting a drink at the bar and there was this gentleman there and he had like these, I don't know, these little toy things that I was really enamored by. And so I started playing with him as I was waiting for my drink and everything. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people were gone from the bar. I couldn't find my husband or my family that had been there with me. And this guy like shoots off a shotgun in the bar and says, okay, our meeting will come to order. And basically was all of the people that were in the bar, and I'm looking at this other woman and she's just like me. We were being inaugurated into a secret gang, whether we liked it or not, because they had decided we were going to be part of this gang. And I was like, what the hell? And they were like really mean killers and like did bad stuff. And I knew like I couldn't just say I'm out, right? And I couldn't go back to my family. Like it was the weirdest thing, Leslie. So what does that mean?
Okay, so I actually wrote that all down as you were talking.
Okay.
The key points. The one was bar, restrooms back, drink, toy thing, playing sudden, everyone's gone, shotgun meeting, inaugurated gang, something,
Violence.
yeah, and no family. So
Yeah.
maybe you're having a little anxiety about what we're talking about.
Oh.
Meaning like everything's good and you're diving into something that's a little scary and
Ah.
there might not be any turning back after this.
I know. Ooh. Which the listeners don't know what
So
we're talking about.
yeah,
But
so I don't know, like maybe that's part of the dream. Like I think especially since you had it last night that you're having a little bit of angst about
I
this.
am. I am
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I was deciding whether we should talk about it today or not.
Well, I think we should talk about it a little bit. And I
Okay.
think you need to be really careful with your words when you're talking about a certain person because that person could make things either good or bad for us.
Right.
I mean, they're kind of weird anyway, right?
Right.
But
Right.
I think there's
It's
a fine line to be walking right now.
we have talked about people that are unpredictable being
Yes.
one of our scariest things. You and I had talked about this on the show, and both for
Yes.
both of us, people that are unpredictable scare us.
Yes.
And so for our listeners, we Leslie had a guest on over the weekend about the Delphi murders. And I didn't know what was going on. So I listened with the rest
Well,
of the
so I
listeners.
tried it to include you,
Yeah.
and you didn't
I
seem
thought it
very
was a butt dial.
interested.
I thought it was a butt dial when you
Yeah,
called
and
me. But yeah, before that, even
no,
I
before
was,
that, and you
yeah.
didn't seem interested. And then, so last minute, I tried to include you, and I actually didn't think it was going to go where it did.
Yeah.
And it may not have gone anywhere other than we've had a few more
Oh,
people on our YouTube channel. Like, because right now, okay, let's just say we do a podcast and the podcast automatically goes to YouTube, and it's usually just the audio of the show. The same thing, except it's on YouTube. Now, I don't even usually check that at all. The average, we have around 8 views on our shows. Like,
okay.
they're not very much. We have, at that time, I think we had, like, I don't know, 26 followers. Like, there wasn't hardly anything. It's like, and it's not like we're promoting that at
Right.
all, right?
Right. It's a blip.
Yeah. So, not that it's a big deal, because there are people that have billions of followers, right? It
Right.
did
And we're
go
not
up
doing that
to,
for that.
no, we're not doing that for at all. Like, YouTube was not our, like, we weren't, it's not even, it's just there, it's just automatic, right?
Yeah.
But since then, it went from like 25 to 86 followers in this past week, less than a week. And then that particular episode is close to 800 views.
Oh, wow.
But it's also because it's a touchy subject,
Yeah.
and it's this person who's been all over the internet claiming that his father is the murderer.
Right.
And so I thought it was worth at least listening to him, to what if he is a little unstable, which is making his credibility not great.
Well,
I wanted to
I
give
think
him a platform to talk about it.
yeah, I think there's a couple things about this. So I listened with the listeners. Um, I had not been very interested, as Leslie said, because I was like, I just don't know what the causation, like what is the incentive, right? So I kind of poo-hooed it. And then so I listened with everybody else. And let me just say this, as a listener who listened, I think that everything that I have researched so far, and it's a lot of information, so I haven't even touched, the bottom of this bucket. Everything that I could research about what Sean was saying about his dad and about his life, and we should say it's Sean Harmon that you talked to, about his dad, Dennis Harmon. I have only been able to validate everything that he has said. So I
But with the
think,
exception, like, because I'm not able to get into Dennis Harmon's Facebook,
right,
I can't validate the phone thing, because the one
right,
thing I did find was a year later. So we can talk about that in a minute
right.
when you get into that. But that was
And
one thing I was like, I'm not sure about that one.
right. And he could have gotten another phone a year later. And we don't know. We haven't dissected all this stuff. So don't even think that we've went through all this stuff, because we've got jobs, we've got
There's
families,
so much
like
going
there's
on. There's
so
so
much.
much.
And
Yeah.
he said so much in the time that he spoke. But what happened was, Leslie had kind of responded. He said he wanted to be, and Leslie said, wanted to be on the air. His voice wanted to be heard. He wanted to be heard. And in the past, people have edited him. They have, really scaled it back, which you had to too, because there was like 2 hours and you were like,
Yeah.
look, I gotta compress this. And he's kind of all over the place, which he says, and I think he's right, due to, drug abuse and the years and, all of this stuff.
And he has so much
make people do that.
information, and he's
Yeah.
trying to share it in
Right.
such a way that, like, I think it, like, even when he talks, sometimes it's too much that
Yes.
my brain starts thinking about other things that
Yes.
I can't focus completely, because
Right.
there's too much coming at me. Like,
So I listened twice. I started making notes the second time, and I still don't feel like I picked it all up. I think I could listen a third time, but he goes on these little tangents, right? And that doesn't do his case a good service when he
Right.
does that. However, I'm going to say that I think that it is worth investigating. I think he's worth listening to, and shame on the investigators who are dismissing him at first glance. Because here's the deal. If you haven't listened to this case, his dad has passed away. he believes, after seeing the
Just
video,
recently in May.
yeah, in May,
Yeah.
he believes that when he saw the video and the voice on that Delphi Bridge murders, he believed that was his dad instantly, in an instant. He knew the walk, he knew the clothes, he knew the voice. So right there, he was like alarmed, right? And this man, in his words, in his opinion, has tortured him his whole life. Now he says, I'm not a victim any longer, but this is why I feel like I am in this position where I've been homeless, I've been on drugs because of this man. So I want to give that validation that I think he's, kudos to him, like, right? So, but it's hard to follow the conversation. So I think he deserves a chance and someone should be investigating this. We don't have a killer.
Well, at least rule him out.
Exactly. And
Like,
the guy's dead.
And then that way we can focus on other things, like
exactly
the right person. If it's not him, let's just rule him out. But can I tell you,
exactly.
I want to say two things. One
okay.
is, so I fully believe that he believes that his father is this person. Like,
yes.
there's no doubt that's not, we're not putting that out at all. I
right.
believe that he believes that it's his father.
Right.
The second thing is, what I was thinking about this the other day, like his childhood was so terrible and
Yeah.
so awful. Maybe it makes sense that his dad is the murderer to him, because it would validate to him what a monster he was as a child.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say his dad didn't actually do it, but that's how he felt as a child, to make sense of how he can explain what a monster his dad was. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to
yes.
say? Okay.
Yes.
Anyway.
And I think in some ways, it will validate his feelings of what a hard upbringing he had with his dad.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
He talks about abuse and the things that he endured with his father, and he has I think legitimate information about his father's brothers and his family that go back generations of not being great people. And you and I have said before, Dennis, his dad, may be a bad dude. He may be a bad guy. He may be a molester. He may be all the things that Sean thinks he is. We have to rule him out for this case.
Right.
I can't tell you whether he is a horrible person or not. I can't tell you whether he did these murders or not. All I can say is he's dead. We can get his DNA. If there's any DNA on the scene, there should be some at least. We should be able to get that.
Rule them out versus,
yes.
I think, yes. So I'm like, and maybe they've done that and it's just not out there. Maybe they're, as far as I've read, he isn't even a person that was on a list. Like, I don't know.
Right. And
so where do you want to start with this? Because
gosh, well,
so I listened to the True Crime Garage about this whole thing. And first of all, I didn't realize how many people were at the park or supposedly at the park.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And then can we talk about the bridge a little bit? Because I had to look this up, because I'm like, this is kind of crazy. So it's no longer a railroad, but it was, right?
Right.
And it was until 1989 or something like that. So, because I was like, wait a minute, there's no railroad on here, but Dennis Harmon used to work on the railroad. So, and then Sean's like, no, he used to, he knows these things. And I was like, wait a minute, it's not even a railroad, but it used to be.
Correct.
And the bridge is 853 feet long, and it's 60 feet high. So it's like a valley that goes down, and the girls crossed it, and there's planks that are missing. So it's really kind of scary. First of all, if I found out my kids did that, I'd be very upset. But people do it all the time. And they had gotten to the other end when they took that picture of the friend. And in the very, very back of that picture, you can see this man. And so, but at the end of the other side of that bridge, the trail is basically overgrown, and you can't really, you have to come back over the bridge. Is that what you saw? Did you hear
I
that
did not investigate that. So you're giving information that I didn't look at.
So I read or saw somewhere that the other side of that bridge is overgrown and the trail kind of ends. So then you
Okay.
have to come back the other way. Now, when he says like go down the hill, it's like go down the mountain, like
Yeah.
because now you have to go quite a ways down, I would think. Like it's weird because like I try to compare it to like Tryon Creek here in
Yeah.
Portland. And you know, it's not like a trail going down the hill. It's
Right.
going to be like leaves and
A
like
gully
yeah, you're going to have to
off
grab onto
road.
trees to kind of get down there. So um I wanted to do a little research on the bridge itself. Because I mean, it did look like a railroad, but then it didn't because there weren't any rails on it. So I had
Uh-huh.
to look that up a little bit. And do you remember if you listened to that particular podcast? I know you did, but
Yeah.
then later Jeanette Lucas, who a lot of people were
Yes.
like, she's kind of all over the place, you know, and but because I know her and I understand her, I knew what she was trying to say. But then afterwards, when we got off the phone, she's like, is there a Martin, a Marty, or a, you know, she was asking me about this person. So I called Sean and he's like, yes, don't you remember? And he's like, you know, he goes, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay, you don't want to ask him again and again because he gets a little irritated. So
He got
um
irritated at you,
yes,
and he's been sending you texts that
a lot.
are intense.
Yes,
Like
and
there's
so
a
I don't want to upset him is what
right,
I'm trying to
right,
say. And
right.
so but I
And
did
I
talk to
think
him this
and I
morning.
think me too, because sent a follow-up email to him and
Did
with
he respond?
questions. No, but you
Okay.
responded to all of us saying, I have
Okay.
the answers to this, which I think probably then he didn't respond. But I too was a little bit scared, like opening a Pandora's box. But I also feel like he's a nice guy trying to do the right thing, I think.
Yeah.
He just wants respect. And it's, I have a cut. I had a cousin. He has since passed away. Very similar in this kind of way he communicates. And he did drugs for a long time. So I don't know if it's his ADHD. I don't, and an intense case of it. And then coupled with, drug abuse and things. And he was also,
Well, and neglect and abuse and you know
yes,
everything
yes, I
else
was
he
going to
has
say abuse.
endured. Like there's
That
so much that happened.
he's just constantly moving, and it's like you need a net to reel him in and then like outline. That's why I listened twice to try to like get an outline of what he was saying and try to
Yeah.
follow, because he throws in ABC murder and
Yeah.
is Ypsilanti murders, which I'd never heard of. I mean, so much that I was like, whoa, okay, this is going to take me 10 hours. And that's the interesting thing about him, Leslie, is the fact that people are discounting him. He's an intelligent guy. He was not sitting there
Well, that's
reading
what I
notes.
was saying to him. I was
Yeah.
like, you might not be educated, but you're very smart. Like
I mean,
that.
he was spewing that stuff
Yeah.
at you.
Well, I think
Like,
he knows it, and I think he
yeah,
was really adamant that, and then his stories have never changed. So whatever
correct.
he's saying, he fully believes. But I wanted to
Right.
go back to this whole Marty thing because I was like,
Okay.
so I called him this morning, and I was like, okay, I'm going to ask you this stuff again. Like, I just want to go through your family tree, and trust me, I didn't
Okay.
get very far, right? Because and then I had to
he got
I
off
had to
course
do
again.
some more research. Yes. So the interesting thing too is that in his dad's obituary, I didn't see that Sean was listed.
He
Did you see
wasn't.
that?
He said that. He said that in his
I thought that
recorded
was
piece to you.
sad. Like,
He
yeah,
said, I wasn't even listed in the obituary, but I don't care. But
yeah,
he actually mentioned that.
yeah. I thought that was sad.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so his uncle is Kevin. Kevin's mother is Marty. When Jeanette was asking who's the Marty, I was thinking it was a man, and it's
Oh,
actually
so say
his
that again.
uncle's mom. So his
So his
dad's
uncle,
brother's
so it's not
mom.
his mom.
No, so the Marty is his uncle's mom. But because she was like, there's a woman involved. So I don't know if the woman is actually the Marty, who's like
Is
a
she
lie
still
after a lie
alive?
after recover a lie. Yes, but she's not doing well and she's in a home in Illinois.
So I wonder what Jeanette was going to say about the Marty.
Yeah, I see. I don't know.
Was she
So
getting?
I did call
Yeah.
her today also.
Okay.
And so sadly, her father is passing away right now. And so
Oh,
I did mention, so I figured out who the Marty was. And she's like, oh,
okay.
that's interesting. But then she kept also saying there's a woman somehow involved or somebody that knows somebody. The woman might be covering a lie after a lie after a lie. Remember, she's like, it was just,
Yeah.
oh, just being covered up. Like, and some people may
So,
not even know that they're doing it. Right. It was
right.
just, yeah.
But okay, so let's just go back to the true crime garage because I think
Okay. Yes.
what my girlfriend freaked out about, she called me. She was listening to the podcast. In fact, I didn't know it had dropped because I listened to Tuesdays, right? That
Well,
you
and
and
I
I had
didn't do it on our
recorded.
normal Tuesday. Yeah, I dropped it
Yeah.
on a Sunday because they
Yeah.
were all people where he's from were waiting for this. And I had to put it out by like my deadline was 10 p.m. that night because I was afraid if I didn't do it by then, I might have some recourse on the other end.
Gotcha. A little scary.
So
Yeah.
I was just
So,
a little nervous to be late
yeah.
again so that you
Okay.
don't want
So
to, yeah.
my girlfriend called me freaking out because as she's listening to Jeanette say that there was a woman involved, she had just listened to True Crime Garage and she's saying, oh my God, there's women in there. You need to listen to that when they're
Right.
saying there was women.
And
So
their
I
story's changing too.
correct. So
Yes.
that was what I was going to say to you
Okay.
is from the true crime garage thing. And you guys, I mean, I'm just starting to unpack this. I am not prepared to just do a really deep dive into this, but this is how confusing this case is. There was a Cheyenne Ingalls who said she was there taking pictures. There is a Cheryl that says that she was there, and there was a Shelby that says she was there. Now, no one saw Cheryl or Shelby. Apparently, Cheyenne was there. So the True Crime Garage gentlemen do not even believe that Shelby was actually there. They think she's lying. And they think that because Cheyenne and Cheryl's timelines have changed and the times they say they were there and when they weren't, they're also changing. So what indicates to me is these women may, I'm not saying they are, I'm just saying there may be something they're covering up. Now, they believe that this man, DP, which I had to do some research on to find out who the hell is DP and why are they calling him DP. But I did find out who they were calling DP. DP now says he was actually arguing with his mistress under the bridge. And
Like, okay, so
Cheyenne,
they hiked all the way down that bridge to have a fight? Like,
maybe they were out. Exactly. I have no clue, but maybe they were just out for a walk. They hiked down there, got in a fight. I don't know. Cheyenne says she saw DP there. And DP says, well, I didn't want to say it first because I'm having an affair with this gal. And I think they're both married. So now DP has said, well, yes, I was fighting with my mistress. Cheryl apparently saw him. I mean, all of the immediate questions are, well, who's the mistress? Let's figure out who the mistress is. Like, this doesn't seem like a hard thing. Is it Cheyenne? Is it Cheryl? Is it Shelby? Like, what's the deal here? So, you guys, there is so much to unpack in that side of it. And then you throw on Sean's opinions and the facts that he has figured out. I just feel like we can put Sean's theory to rest or keep it open with a simple
right.
DNA test.
Right.
The dad is dead. I don't think at that point you need a warrant to get his DNA. He has been cremated.
Well, or just do Sean's and get the familial DNA.
But
Like,
see, now Sean thinks he might have been not that maybe isn't his dad. He thinks maybe his uncle is his dad, right?
oh,
So there's
well, I
that
think
too.
well, did he actually say that? Because he always refers
did.
to him as his dad, but he may think that
He
there's
calls him
more.
Dennis. He actually calls him Dennis, but in that, because trust me, I
Okay.
listened to it twice. He does say at one point that he thinks maybe he was not Dennis's son, even though he grew up calling him dad. He thought he was his dad, all of that. So I think there's that portion of it. But the couple things that you and I have already uncovered, which you uncovered, I should let you tell this, but you actually looked up the pictures of the house that Dennis sold, that Sean claims the items that the man is wearing, bridge guy, in the Delphi murders picture video, are in that house that is for sale.
So he believes that, right? And it's kind of
Yes,
weird. Like,
that's
so
true.
all of the pictures show a guy, and I don't know, what do you call that? Like a page boy or a fedora? What is that hat?
I don't know. It's
That's in
not a
the pictures.
fedora. I don't know what it is. But
You
it's
know, it's
that
like it's kind of short and
pulled
flat on
down
the
in the
top.
front. Yeah.
So he believes that no, it's actually a baseball cap. It also could be backwards. Like if you really look at that picture, it's really hard to see. And I don't know if it's so grainy is because that picture is
Blown
so
up.
far away and it's
Yeah.
blown so far up. So it's really hard to tell. But he thinks it almost looks like, so he said there is a the real estate person who put the house on the market. Those
Yeah.
pictures are still up.
Yes. If
And
you
you can
Google them.
go to that, and basically there's a picture of like an office. There is a bunch of hats hanging above a door, and he's like, that is the hat. It's like a camo type hat. And then on the chair next to the door is a burgundy t-shirt. And then there's also a rope sitting there. Like, why is there a rope there? And then there's also like a jacket hanging. And he's like, my dad always wore this like blue windbreaker.
Yeah.
And he always had a signature scarf that he always wore.
Which
And
I
I
found
said,
that one odd. This guy's wearing a signature scarf.
like,
What?
you know, it's the one scarf that you always wear. He probably didn't have multiple scarves. He probably had the one. Like my dad didn't have like multiple anything. He just
But did
always
your
wore the
dad
same
wear a
thing.
scarf? I mean, no men in my
Well,
side of the
okay,
family wear a
I
scarf.
don't know what the weather
My
is in
husband will.
Indiana in February. It's probably cold. Like maybe, I don't know. People are
With a
weird.
windbreaker. I mean, this is
Who
a big
knows?
dude. He's got a lot of warmth. I don't know. But
According to
we should
Sean, his
say,
dad wore this scarf with
yeah,
this jacket, which kind of matches what you see. It's either a scarf or it's a hoodie. But they, in True Crime Garage, they said we saw the man with the scarf.
yeah.
Anyway, and then this hat. And then I said, it look almost to me, it looks like a fanny pack, not a shirt.
I did not think so. I zoomed in on it. I've
Okay,
looked at it
it looks
several
like a
times.
shirt
I
too.
think it's a burgundy shirt that's kind of hanging out. And
Which
we
is
should say,
hanging there, like it's on
yeah,
in that picture. So you either have like some truth coming out, or you have, this is also how people get wrongfully convicted, because everything kind
correct.
of matches up if you find it and
Circumstantial
look for it.
evidence.
Right.
Correct.
And so, I mean, he either really was wearing all this stuff and this is what he did, or
Yeah.
it just is very interesting to say that, wow, what are the coincidences?
Right. And we should say that the house is 4490 Pleasure Ridge Road, Indiana. Sorry, Corden, Indiana.
Yes.
Wait, Pleasure Ridge Road Southeast, Corden, Indiana.
4490.
It's
Yeah.
4490, 47112, he thought.
And you can just Google it, look at the pictures, and in one
Yeah.
of the offices, you'll see the hats, you'll see the shirt, you'll see the rope. And then he claims, and I never did see that blue jacket, but he was claiming that in one of the pictures, you can see the blue jacket that his dad always wore. It was like a windbreaker hanging in one of the pictures. So,
okay. Well, I applaud him for trying to do the right thing. And he has clearly done a ton of research, more research than I've done on this case. He knows a lot about his family. I think it's distracting when he talks about like the alphabet murders, the Epsilon murders.
yes.
In this realm. I don't think it's odd when he says, hey, look, my dad was a bad dude. I can
Yes,
line up
yes.
places he lived and places where he was or could have been where there were also murders. I validate that. But in terms of let's stay on topic, let's talk about the Delphi murders. Let's prove or disprove that it was him. That's the part that I think everybody gets distracted with his.
And I think he has a hard time being able to voice that in that way.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I think his brain is moving a million
Yep.
miles a minute, and he's
Yep.
got all this information, and he's excited that someone's
Yeah.
listening to him and getting the word out. But
And
I just,
I think his heart's in the right spot.
yeah,
The other thing that I just want to mention that I thought was weird is, I looked up, he said Rocky Harmon was the investigator on the Golden Gate Killers, which I still have to research more because I know about the Golden Gate Killer and how they just found him and everything. But I thought it was odd that, and I found it, it is Rock N. So the name of this person is Rock with an N and an E at the end. So it's Rockany P. Harmon. And I'm like, what are the odds that a Harmon would also
Yeah,
be
I wrote
the
that down too
investigator?
somewhere, and I'm trying to find it in my notes because
Yeah. And
he
this is
was
from
saying something
Sacramento.
about
His
he's
family.
a DNA person, like he's
Yeah.
a DNA investigator of some sort. And I just thought that was really interesting that his last name was the same too. I was like,
Yeah. Which he actually mentions. He's
yeah,
like, because his family had ties and spent some time in Sacramento, he and his brother. So it is exactly what we're saying. Like there were so many tangents that, okay,
yeah,
we have to like, I'm validating some of the stuff he says just to find validation. And then we have to like ignore that other stuff a little bit and delve into just let's figure out Delphi. And I feel
right.
like it should be easy. I wanted to know the questions that I had for him is, okay, what about your sister?
Because we can
Does
call him. You
she,
can ask him.
does
I
she,
told
yeah,
him you were going to be on the show.
does she corroborate your story? Where is she? Can we find her? What does she see about her dad? Like, does she think that sounds like him? Does she think that's his walk? Like, I'd like to know that. What does his mom say? Is his mom still alive? Is she around?
Yeah, I was going
Was
to ask him
Dennis?
about that earlier today, but I had to jump off to the
Okay.
phone earlier. But I said, I mean, that was on my list. I even put a little note on there about who his mom is. Where is
Yeah.
she around?
And part of the thing, like he mentioned the composites, and he said that his son was the younger looking composite, which I learned from True Crime Garage, if you can believe them too. I mean, this is all just hearsay. Is that the younger picture of the composite was actually done a couple days after they disappeared, and that the older man that was pictured was done later.
Right.
And even though they were distributed to the public in reverse order, they were actually reversed in when they came to them. And he believes that his sons could have been involved, which I don't know. Then I went down the
Which
rabbit
son
hole.
would only be the older one would have been if this happened? How many years ago did this happen? 5 years ago?
2017, so 4.
Okay, so the one son would have been 20 and the other son would have been 15.
Yeah, it's certainly not the 15-year-old. And I don't think the 15-year-old lives there. Isn't the 15-year-old the one in
I think so.
Colorado? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not exactly sure.
And the older
would
one
tell
was
you,
actually listed in the obituary as a son, not a grandson.
I thought it was grandson.
Let me look here really quick.
Texas. I thought it said Texas and Dylan Michael Harmon. I mean, I want to talk to these kids. I think investigators owe it to the Delphi girls to just knock this off of their list.
So it says survivors are his wife and then his sons, Jeffrey, Texas, and Dylan Harmon.
Oh, okay.
And then it goes down even for his grandson. It'll say later the other guy, like Gavin Gross.
Okay. So he's calling Gavin his grandson and Dylan
and he's calling
his
Dylan his son. Well, he's not. This
whoever wrote the obituary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will have to tell you that when I listened to True Crime Garage, because they're a 3-parter, they do a really good job.
Yeah, they're really good.
I read some of the Reddit things and I was a little concerned too, because they claim they think they know who did it. Like they are calling this person out. And I should just say it's DP. So I'm not saying anything.
Are those his initials?
Those are his initials. Okay. I actually found 2 different sets of initials for that same name. So I'm not exactly sure. And
couldn't they just do the DNA?
Well, exactly. But this DP person sure does look like that composite. I mean, that was the part that kind of freaked me out. How
did you find the picture of this person?
It's on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I just look
DP,
up DP?
Let's just point out, DP is the man who said he was there arguing with his mistress under the bridge. that Cheyenne saw, and that he also inserted, True Crime Garage says, he inserted himself into this investigation.
Oh yeah, he
So
definitely looks like
that's
the dude.
always, yeah, that's always a big red flag when somebody inserts himself.
Okay, the first
Um,
thing I have to tell you though is how did that guy have a girlfriend and a mistress?
well, I don't know. That's a great question,
But he definitely looks like that guy.
right? Yeah.
Then who's this other guy? The bigger guy.
Flannel shirt guy.
Okay, so tell me more about this flannel shirt and where did he show up? Because I
Well,
don't.
okay, so I am just listening to True Crime Garage. I have not researched Flannel Shirt Guy myself, but Flannel Shirt Guy apparently is the first man that Brad, the father, who came to look for his daughter and the other girl, and I can't remember which one's his daughter and which one isn't, but Brad came looking. Brad first runs into Flannel Shirt Guy, and Flannel Shirt Guy works at the park. Like he's like part of
Yes.
maintenance.
Yes.
His name's out there too. I'm not going to give it because I'm not about that. But he, that's why they call him Flannel Shirt Guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot to unpack. And I was kind of, I mean, I got started on it and I was like, geez, I don't even know where to go if I just keep going through and kind of checking in on the things that Sean is saying. I mean, I just feel like this would be easy to figure out. Like even his latest wife, Belinda, and some of the other wives, like, can't we just rule him out?
Well, that would be the easiest thing. And then actually like talk about it so that everybody knows that it's been ruled out. So nobody's like doing their own private
Yeah.
investigations about
Yeah.
it. Like
And,
if they already know that, just tell us, please. Like,
right. Right. And here's the other thing, I'm just going to say this, and we've said this before. DP also sounds like a bad dude. He was contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which was alcohol. He was 21. He was it was an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old in 2008. Now, is that the worst thing that a 21-year-old dude can do, is give these young girls? No, I'm not going to say that, but it does sound like DP has had a little trouble with the law in his life. And it doesn't seem like he's a great dude, but Dennis also could be a not great dude, but didn't kill these girls. DP could be not a great dude, but didn't kill these girls. So I just feel like if I've learned nothing in the 2 years that we've been doing this, is that you can have a dude that's not great or a woman that's not great or whatever. It doesn't mean they did this, right?
right.
So I think there's a whole lot more unpacking. I also didn't know about is it CPS building?
Yeah. So that was kind of confusing too. What does CPS stand for? What is that?
Well, I think it's Child Protective Services, but
And so is that near the entrance?
Well,
Because it
and
looks, I'm looking at the map right
it's,
now.
I think it's the backside and it's an abandoned building is what I think. So I think it's another place where people park
Yes.
and go into the park. So one of the issues that True Crime Garage was saying was, look, there weren't very many cars in that parking lot. There's no way Cheyenne and Cheryl and Shelby and
It only
DP.
holds like 5 or 6 cars to begin with.
Exactly.
And they would have
they,
noticed that there were so many cars
yes,
there.
they all said that they drove separately, like they were there separately, even though they seem to be friends, like, or friends of friends, so they could be connected. Again, that would be something I would need to delve into a little bit more. But there's,
Does anybody ever park at that cemetery?
I do not know.
Have you seen the map?
I did see that map, but I really couldn't tell how close the cemetery was to the actual park. If it's connected, can you get it through? Is there a gate? A lot of times cemeteries are closed off by cyclone fences. So is there a gate there? Is there a gully? Like, I don't have a clue.
Well, and the other thing was the True Crime Garage was saying that they believe that maybe this person was kind of, what did they say? They said that they were tracking her phone, maybe like there was a possibility that he had access to know when she was going to be there, like maybe
Well,
specifically to one of the kids. Or
so
to me, it feels more like an opportunity. It just happened. I just sent
I
you a picture of the map so you can see it on your
okay.
phone.
I really felt like, Leslie, after listening to this, I was like, oh, you know what? These girls had made um online connections with this person and they were planning to meet them.
Okay, like Snapchat, you
That's
can see
my
where they
yeah.
are. So maybe they did that somehow, but did they unknowingly know that this person was following them? It could have been a fake person, you think, that they then
Yeah,
like
I
befriended
think they were
somehow.
catfished. I think they were catfished. And I think one of the
Oh, to
girls
go there on
to go
purpose,
there
maybe.
to go on purpose to meet this person. I think they were catfished. I think that the other girl came because the other girl was a little bit afraid, and they got
I
there
get it. I
and
didn't
yeah,
realize that's what they were kind of implying, was that they had met somehow online and they were going to meet this person.
that's what I
Is that
think.
what they're saying? Okay.
I-
That makes sense.
After listening to it,
Yeah.
that's what I think. I think
Okay.
because here's my thing. They asked to be dropped off there to go on a hike. Okay, kids that age don't hike.
Well, when you saw that the interview with the grandma, they have gone out there. They go out there. It's like probably like how we do it at Tryon Creek. At least our kids do.
Okay, if your daughter and her best friend were like, "Hey, we're gonna go over to Tryon Creek," blah blah blah, you go, "Oh, who are you meeting over there?
I don't know.
What
Ella went
boy?"
running there yesterday, and I didn't
Okay,
ask
but she went
her.
running. She went by
I don't
herself.
know. Would you be like if they were going to be dropped off there, wouldn't the sister be like, that's weird? Or she's not going to say anything because it was sort of the norm, because it wasn't the first time they did it.
I mean, personally, when my daughter at that age was like, "Hey, me and my best friend are going to go to the park," I let I whether they're going to meet boys or not, I'm letting them go. Like this is part of growing up, and I wouldn't think, "Oh, there's some online stalker there that they're going to meet."
Yeah.
My immediate thought is they're meeting kids from school, or what my daughter did a lot with the girls, they'd go and take pictures. They take
Yeah.
picture selfies of each
Yeah.
other and like modeling kind of things, outdoor photos. So I don't necessarily, I'm not saying that we have proof of this, I'm not saying that at
Right.
all, but in my opinion, listening to this, I was like, oh, this is the first time that I've gotten a good understanding of what this place is and
Yes.
what it's like. And I think they were going to meet someone.
Yeah, that makes sense now.
I don't think it was a crime of
Okay,
opportunity.
so then what was the whole, they were talking about cleaning the phone, wiping the phone. What was that all about? And because a family member had wiped the phone. Do you remember
I
that part of
don't
it?
remember that part.
Okay, because I was like, did they wipe it before or after? Like, I don't understand the whole
Was that
wiping of
in
the phone.
part one, two, or three
It
of their?
was, I think, the end of 2 and the beginning of 3, and he was saying
Okay.
how, because it was a 6, they don't have very much. You can't put a bunch of stuff on it, so they had to wipe the phone in order to make it load up some apps and stuff. You know what I mean? Like maybe the
Yeah.
storage on the phone wasn't very big. So I don't know, did they mean right before? Like I didn't understand. Or maybe that's why only one of the girls had a phone, was because they had just wiped the phone. I couldn't
Well,
figure out what they were talking about.
they're also wondering, why did the other girl didn't have a phone? Are we sure she didn't have a phone? Do we
And
only have one phone?
maybe that's why they're talking
Yeah.
about wiping the phone. Or so
Okay. I
what's
have to go
even
back
more
and listen to
sad
that.
to me is, the dad comes to pick them up about 3, and this is all happening when the dad's basically looking for them.
Correct. Correct. And that the phone gets turned back on, we should say, at like 2:30 in the morning. They all rush out there to see if they can find the phone, which I don't know. Did it ping at the park?
It said at the
Not exactly.
bridge.
Okay. So it pinged there. And they don't
But
find it.
and so originally they said it was a half a mile away. It was a quarter mile from the bridge. So maybe even if because it's at that cell tower by the bridge, maybe it's just that general area. They're like, oh, they're
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah.
But so then why would it ping at 2:30 in the morning? Or did like an app update? Did somebody, you know what I mean? Like why did
Yeah,
it
I
ping at
do.
that time?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that we can completely trust technology sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. And I also think that what is sad is that Brad, the dad, came to the park asked flannel shirt guy, hey, have you seen two girls? And he said, no, I just saw a guy down there arguing with his girlfriend. And True Crime Garage is speculating that that was actually a fight with the girls, and that had Brad went that way. So Brad heard that and decided to go the other way. Well, they're not down there. I'm going to go the other way. So he went the other way. What would have happened? And I'm sure he's unfortunately thinking about this. What would have happened if he would have went that way? Was that argument the girls, or the girl? I have no idea. And really, Leslie, without going out there and seeing where this argument, where, you know, flannel shirt guy says this argument happened, what does that really look like? Like, could he have not seen the girl? Was it really the girlfriend, or was it really one of these young girls? Like, I don't know. Could he see very well? Was he just assuming?
Like, if you're like is seeing somebody like arguing in like the woods away from a parking lot, wouldn't you be like, hey, everything okay over here? Like,
yeah,
checking in. I don't know.
I would have. And also, I mean, we've got DNA. Can't we just rule out DP?
Yeah.
And shouldn't we give flannel shirt guy a test, DP a test? I mean, like, Cheryl, Shelby, and Diane.
Like,
yeah,
because what they did say is they did put the DNA through a database and nothing had shown up as a match as of then. What about now? Like, if you've collected those DNAs from these particular people, can you run it now? Like, and then they must be doing that, right? Like, why wouldn't they not?
I would think so.
Or are they trying to build enough case to where, like, when they get it, then to like
maybe
just to make it sure it's solid?
Do we need much more than DNA?
Well, you could say, yeah, I ran into them on the bridge. I don't know. It depends on where the DNA was and
because
what it is.
Sexual assault. Wasn't there sexual assault in this case?
They don't say.
Oh.
They don't say what it is. And her phone, was it on her, or it was, because one of the videos it just shows the phone was like on the ground. But was it in her pocket? How did they find her phone? No, I guess we don't know that answer.
I don't know that, Leslie, because like I said, I wasn't prepared. I mean, there's so much information in this.
There is
case that and so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
That you know, kind of coming back to Sean, I just feel like the investigators should listen to him. Apparently, I mean, he said they never have talked to him, that he's tried and he's trying, and I think he's a good guy and he's got his heart in the right place. I mean, why else would he be doing this? You guys, we literally have been doing this for 2 years. I know we don't have, you know, a lot of subscriptions and listeners and all that stuff. We have made zero money. Like, yes. I don't think he's making money. Like,
and so that was your first thing was, oh, he's looking for followers. And then somebody else on the YouTube channel also says, oh, he's just looking for followers. The guy only has 115 or 125 now, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're looking for millions. You're not even looking for thousands. It's like, you're not getting, there's no movement there.
Right.
We might get a lot of views, but like, I just don't think that's not
his end game.
He's not getting rich on this. He doesn't
I
don't think that stuff is important to him. I think getting the word out, and I truly believe that he just feels like it's his father.
Yeah.
And maybe that is just because his father is such a monster to him that it makes sense that he would be this murderer as well. So,
and like you said, there is so much circumstantial evidence to what he's saying. And he's basically outlined, if you can follow it, he's outlined a pattern of abuse and a pattern of violence with both Dennis as well as Dennis's brothers and family. So that seems clear to me. There's actual proof of that. Okay. So, and some of it's hearsay because some of it's his opinion about how he was raised. I'll give you that too. But there is aligning information to what he says. Okay. Circumstantial alignment of what he says. So Dennis may be, in fact, a bad dude. Dennis, in fact, may have done bad things to other people. Let's just figure out if Dennis did this. Right?
Yeah. Right. Let's just
call the guy back. What do you have to lose? To swab his mouth to see if he's related to any of this. He's already put his DNA. swab into the system for investigators. Like,
Yeah.
this seems like a pretty easy thing to do.
Well, I do have one other story that I wanted to share that kind of goes along with this, if that's all
Okay.
right.
Yes.
Okay. So on June 8th, 1989, in Vancouver, BC, which is just on the other side of Washington, basically, right up in Canada,
Yeah.
in a town called Richmond, a body was found in the backyard of an abandoned house. Now, this was a 44-year-old woman named Cindy James. Have you heard the story?
No.
It's very sad. For 7 years, she reported over 100 incidences of harassment and stalking, and 5 of which
By
were
who?
violent, physical. She doesn't know. He's like a stalker. And so she had gone through, like, it was about 4 months after her separation with her husband, all these things started to happen. She started to
Oh.
get prank calls. There was prowlers outside her house. Her porch lights were broken. Her phone lines were cut, and bizarre notes started showing up at her door. And she had, contacted the police. Everybody was very aware. Her family, her mom, and I think her stepdad were very involved in like trying to figure this out with her. She also had a really good friend named Agnes Woodcock, and she told Agnes that this guy doesn't want to kill me. He just wants to scare me to death. So Agnes came by one night and there was no answer at the door, and she found her curled up on the floor with a nylon wrapped around her neck. And all this woman, Cindy, said was all I could see was his white sneakers. So the police actually thought she was making all of this up. Like this, there was never this person.
The whole
And
time.
the whole time. So Cindy moved and she changed her last name and she hired a private investigator. And he told, so he gave her like a two-way radio. He's like, if you need me anytime, you just use this. So at one night he heard a noise over the radio. So he goes rushing over there. There's no answer at the door. He breaks in the door and she is found on the floor with a note on her hand with a paring knife through it. And let's see. And she said that she was hit in the head. She remembers a needle going into her arm and him waking her up. And she does remember that this man had told her, you can't say anything because your sister or your mom is next. And so she was like, okay, I'm not going to like whatever. So
Wait, so the investigator didn't have to report this?
no, so she reported it to the investigator, but he was basically saying, if you like make a big stink about this, your mom and your sister are next. So she was
Who
just never
cares?
really
Like,
right.
not who cares, but I would still be telling.
Right. So let's see, what's the next thing that happened is, and this is where it gets kind of sad was, let me see. Sorry, I have to do this every single time.
Well, I keep thinking she's going to die from this. And then you're like, oh, and then she wakes up.
Yeah,
It's
no.
like, what?
Yeah. Well, she told the private investigator she saw somebody like prowling around her gate. He hit her in the head. She remembers a needle going into her arm, and that's when he found her on the floor with a note. And
Did she
so
go
then,
outside?
okay, so wait, there's more. Like, so yeah, I guess maybe the police were then called because they were doing a surveillance on her house. The whole time they're doing surveillance, nothing happens. The minute they leave, something happens. And so they're like, you know what? She's making all of this up. And they were like, there's no way because she's getting bruises and cuts and she's being tied up in these different ways, right? So 6 miles from her house, she's found in a ditch with cuts and bruises. She has one men's boot on, a glove, a nylon wrapped around her neck, and no memory of what had happened. And she also had hypothermia because she's just in this ditch for a long time. Then
What
so
is her?
she goes to the
Why are we not
hospital.
looking at the ex-husband? I mean, I got all sorts of questions.
Yeah,
Is he
because
a
the police don't
doctor?
believe her. The police don't believe any of this. They think that she's making this all up.
Oh my
So
God.
she asked her mom and the mom's husband to stay the night with her. At some point in the night, she goes running into the room and she's like, I just heard a loud noise. And the husband or the mom's boyfriend, whatever he was, the partner, says, I heard it too. He goes running out, finds a fire in the basement. He goes to make the phone call, and the lines are cut. So then he goes to the neighbor's house and he's like, hey, call the fire department. He looks at the curb and there's a man standing at the curb. He goes to approach him and he runs off. Still, they think that she set the fire because it started within the house. None of the window sills were touched. So there's no way that this person got in through the basement. They don't know. Like basically, they're saying the fire happened within the house. The phone lines probably were cut by her. This is what they're saying, right? And sorry, let me go back to my next page because I just looked this up before we got on the phone.
Gosh.
So the police are saying she staged all of the stuff, that her behavior was odd because that night she had taken a walk with her dog. And they said, if you're scared of the dark and you're scared of this person, why are you walking your dog at night when it's dark? So they thought that was very strange. And because no one was believing her, it was making her suicidal, which is what this person was trying to do, right? Like they're saying, like, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to scare you to death.
Yeah,
So
I'm going to torture you.
Right. So her therapist commits her to a local psych ward. She was there for 10 weeks. And then it was May 25th, 1989, 6 years, 7 months after the first threatening call, she went missing. Her car was found in a neighborhood parking lot. There were groceries and a wrapped gift in the back. And there was blood on the driver's side door. Her wallet and credit cards were like kind of underneath the car. And then 2 weeks later, she was found in an abandoned house in the backyard. Her hands and feet were bound they were bound behind her back, and a black nylon was wrapped around her neck, which this has always seemed to be the thing, and nylons were around her neck.
Yeah.
And she died of an overdose of morphine and other drugs, and they're saying it was suicide. So, but they're saying is, okay, and she was barefoot, but her feet were clean. So you're saying that she left her car, walked,
spilled all that stuff, left a gift.
Like, and I don't know how long. They were saying morphine can take anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour. But then where is the syringe that did that? Where, and they were saying the other drugs. So like, how do you know how long that's going to take? And are you going to be able to tie yourself up and to do that, but also hide this stuff to where nobody can find it? Like, and if you left your car, wouldn't somebody see a woman walking barefoot with drugs and nylons and all this stuff to this place? Anyway, they were saying that there was no needles, no cups around, and that the morphine takes 15 minutes to a half hour. So you could do this thing. Does she know this? Does she know that she's got this window? And then an investigator said he tied the same knots. It took him 3 minutes in order to get it behind his back. And the coroner ruled it not a suicide, not an accident or murder, but it's just an unknown event. And so
that's a CYA.
Could she had been like telling the truth and no one's listening to her? Could she be Sean Harmon?
What about the boyfriend?
Well, that's what they're like looking to, the husband, or they were saying,
no, I agree. But what about the the mom's boyfriend who was spending the night, who saw the man in across the street?
Right, exactly.
Like, that's an eyeyewitness. Yes,
I do. There were multiple calls. They have a voice recording of something he had said, but they were like, no, it's her.
This is horrible.
Like,
so is this just a dead case now, or did it get opened back up?
No, it's done. It's just an unknown event.
No.
And it was on Unsolved Mysteries. They did and I remember hearing this case and I thought, gosh, this kind of reminds me of like Sean Harmon. What if like he is telling the truth and nobody's listening?
Right.
Let's just rule it out.
I think that's how he feels.
Right. And so Cindy James, could she have done this to herself? I guess it's possible, maybe unlikely, but nobody listened to her, and how frustrating that must be when you're somebody who really truly believes something and no one's listening to you.
Yeah.
I mean, and she spent 10 weeks in a mental ward. Wouldn't they have been able to like digest some of this and be like, maybe, but she was going to the extent of like changing her name, moving, and this person seemed to find her. to me, it has to be somebody, it's either her or somebody that she knows, that she's friends with, that is like torturing her, basically.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
this person did scare her to death, basically. Either her own death or they did it.
Yeah.
Like, who knows, you know?
Did the
But
neighbor, when the mom's boyfriend went to the neighbor's house, saw the guy across the street, did the neighbor also see the guy?
it did not say that. It just said that the mom's person, she didn't call him her dad. So the mom's boyfriend or whatever he was went to approach him and he ran down the street. So they believe that this was a murder. They totally believe
Yeah.
that she
Yeah.
was murdered. But everyone else seems to think that it was her doing it all to herself. But for like 7 years to like torture
Okay.
yourself and to go through that.
Like, we're not delving into this case right now, but I'm going to tell you, it reminds me of Making a Murderer. Did you watch that whole documentary?
I did not. Well,
Okay.
okay, sort of
You
like,
should.
because the one they were like kind of special needs.
Oh, yes.
That one, okay.
Yes.
They were slow or something, like
Yeah, just their IQ was not, especially the
Yeah,
younger
okay.
boy too. Their IQ was not high.
like, because he confessed to the murder and then he's like, "Can I go home?" And they're like,
Yeah, that was the boy.
"No."
Yeah.
Okay.
He had homework due. He had something to turn in a class that they took him out of right before. And he's like, look, I need to do my, I need to turn this in. And they were like, well, you're not leaving here till you confess. And so finally he just was like, okay, fine. Now can I go back to my classroom? Like,
Right.
yeah, because he was worried about that. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you, sometimes sometimes I feel like Sean Harmon, like I am screaming at the top of my lungs, like, look, this is your key. Like, here's your key. Making of a Murder, same thing. You watch that documentary, everyone focuses on all these other things. And I know a very, very talented woman is now trying to get Stephen Avery off. And I think she's very good at what she does. I think out of the whole documentary, there's only one point that we need to uncover. And this is it. And I don't remember who he's sheriff because I wasn't prepared to talk about this. The sheriff or someone in law enforcement, at some point, I think 3 days before they find her car, can't even remember her name right now. Sad. Sorry. I want to say it's Brenda, but it's not. Teresa Harbach. Thank you. Thank you for coming to me. Teresa Harbach, a sheriff in town, calls in and to the what's it called when they have their like the police
dispatch or whatever.
Dispatch calls into dispatch, thank you, and gives a license plate number and says, I want to run a license plate check on this car.
Yeah, and where was that car at that time?
Exactly. And he says, oh, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember that. Wait, we have video. I mean, we have sound. We have audio.
Yeah, it's in there.
Call.
And would you have been making that call on a private property?
No, he wouldn't. And by the way,
Yes.
had he known that was Teresa Harbach's car at that time, he knew she was missing. He would have been like, oh my God, we need to get people out there. But that went dead. Like, no one's focusing on this, Leslie. I feel like I'm going crazy in this case. Because
well, okay. And what about
right
the
there.
keys or something that weren't found in there? And
Weren't
then they
found.
do another search and then they were like,
that's all supplemental to the fact.
Yeah.
We have audio of this
Yes.
particular law enforcement agent calling in her license plate. He didn't make that license plate number up. He actually said, I have an abandoned car. Can you
in that recording, did they say, what did dispatch say to that?
She told him
whose car it was.
Yes.
Oh, and he did nothing.
Well, or did he? Did he then go, holy shit, I found
that's when they're like, then
now
they
I need to move it
private
on
property.
to Stephen Avery's land. Exactly. This is not rocket science. There's your key, people. Stephen Avery didn't do this.
Well, okay, which also goes into this whole like conspiracy or corruption, depending on what you think, because I'm like, even this DNA person, it's got the same last name. Like, I mean, I guess that could be coincidental, but like, are they just covering up family history and family?
Great question. And you know what?
Where are you connected?
I don't think I can say on that one in particular, because again, I just like tipped the iceberg on, oh, okay, this name that he keeps throwing out, I'm going to Google it. And so I did. And I found who he was talking about.
Yeah.
weird spelling, weird name, right? And weirdly coincidental, the same last name. Like,
Yeah.
so I have no clue even who this person is, but I do find that coincidental
Yeah.
for sure. And I don't know, it just makes me crazy. Like, I don't think that gal was lying. And we could have proof by saying, well, the mom's boyfriend saw some dude,
Right.
and we know that the woman had been in the house not dressed in those clothes. You're telling me that after he ran out the door, she like changed her clothes and ran out to the street to watch him? Like, no, she didn't do that. She probably was still in the house trying to put out the damn fire.
Yeah.
And probably he came back into the house to get them out or do whatever, saw her in the same exact clothes, not the black hoodie that was across the street. Whatever. Like, see,
Well,
I'm
and
getting a little,
who's gonna
getting a
pull
little
that for
crazy here.
7 years on yourself? Like, who's gonna
Seriously,
do that? Like,
that would be the ex-husband.
7 years of just torturing yourself
Yeah.
until you finally just killed yourself?
If you don't want me anymore, this is what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to make your life a living hell. I mean, I don't understand why she's like, oh, I don't know who this is. I just divorced my husband 4
Okay,
months
but she
ago.
also like wouldn't like when the police would like question her, she was always very evasive. And the parents were saying that maybe she was scared because they said your sister, your mom's next if you give too much
Yes,
information. So
for sure.
she's being very evasive, or maybe she says no, like if she's being hit over the head or whatever, maybe she doesn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. The
Maybe.
whole case was like really kind of crazy,
Oh,
which also just reminded me of like when people talk and nobody listens, nobody
yeah.
believes you.
Yeah.
And maybe there's reasons why they don't believe. And I understand maybe why they don't listen to Sean when you watch his other content and stuff. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, boy, he's all over
It's
the
a
place.
lot.
But then
Yeah.
could there be some truth to it?
Right.
And I always say this, and I've said this already five times today on this show, was he believes it.
Yeah. For
He
sure.
believes it to be true. That's all I can say.
And I feel like for his sake and sanity and everyone else involved in this, let's just rule it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what happens with cremated bodies. I don't think you can do DNA at that point.
No, but there's got to be somewhere, or like
Somewhere.
there's got to be like family members that are willing to
Have
do the
something.
DNA, which get the familial, just to
Correct.
get it out.
That's
rule
good
them out.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
So even if Dennis isn't, he does have other children he could then compare it to.
correct.
But the one thing that I did see, and it's so like kind of crazy, is well, his dad was on disability. But he had, a decent house. He had a nice big property. He had a travel
Yeah.
trailer, some new cars. And there is on one of his Facebook page, he has to like drop a tree in his property, and that's not cheap. But
Yeah.
then like Sean is just like, how does he afford all this stuff? Like, well, I
Yeah.
don't think he affords it being a murderer. I don't know exactly how he afforded this.
Yeah.
And what's kind of sad is like to know how maybe tortured Sean was. He just looks like a grandpa. Like he doesn't look
Yeah.
like this terrible monster, but then who portrays
They
himself
always
as
do. When
I
they get
know.
old, they just all look like grandpas. I also think that I don't want Sean to be tortured over this. If
Yeah.
his dad didn't do this or Dennis didn't do this, I want Sean to be able to go on and focus on something else. He clearly knows this stuff upside, downside, backwards. He was not reading from notes, you guys. He was just
No.
spewing it from his
Which then
memory.
also could be like a bipolar. It could be a lot of other things
for
that
sure.
are
On the
getting into
spectrum,
that. Like,
for sure. For sure.
yeah.
But as you said, he really believes it. And if he really
Yeah.
believes it, we don't have a killer yet. Why don't we just rule it out?
I do worry that if they do find him and it's not his father, he still won't believe it.
Well, okay, so Leslie, what would happen if we got his DNA and we put it into the database and
He's done
he did
that.
not kill?
It's in there.
No. I know Sean's
Dennis's.
Dennis's. And we find that Dennis had nothing to do with Abby and the Delphi girls. The other name is escaping me, but
Libby and Abby.
Libby and Abby. He had nothing to do with that, let's just say, but he did have something to do with something else, and he's a match for other things.
Yeah.
That would be worth Sean's trouble, I think, and all of his energy to help someone else. And I really believe, like you said, he believes it. And I also believe that he is trying to help.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
whether
don't
he's
think
going
when I
about it
looked
the
at,
right way, I can't say that. I mean, it scared you and I a little
yeah,
bit. He's
yeah,
his temper or erratic behavior scared you and I a little bit, which gets back to my whole dream. And I think you're probably right, because
yeah,
I would tell you that I have been a little like, okay, I don't need, I don't need any trouble.
right.
I'm used to
Well, and
looking,
that's
kind
why
of
I was
thing.
saying like, well, he's
Yeah.
far away. Maybe it's okay. Like, you know what? I think he is just misunderstood. He's been through a lot in his life. He's smart, but he's not educated. I think he's got, drug issues or had. And I think all of that comes into play with, which
And
makes
being
him
educated,
irrational. And
yeah, being educated doesn't matter.
yeah,
Right? It shouldn't matter that your voice isn't heard or that people don't listen to you because you're uneducated or you've had a drug problem. It's just like when we talk about these girls that go
right.
missing that
But
are
because of
drug.
that, he's not able to say it in a way that people are
Exactly.
listening. And I
Exactly.
think that's where the whole miscommunication happens, where people
Correct.
start blowing him off.
Right. And I think that's where you and I are like, okay, let's dissect what he said and put
Yeah.
this in a rational like list or a rational like factual diagram that someone can understand. Because
So the both thing we can agree as there are a lot of coincidences, but the only
yes,
way to fully to like, solve this part of it is just to get the DNA out of in and
correct.
out of there.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And
That's
if
all.
they still have hats of his, I mean, there's DNA in that stuff. So there
Yeah.
should be some ability to get something. They have something.
Yeah. I mean, it was only in May, so there's got to
Right.
be stuff
A
around the
car.
house that,
There could be a
yeah.
car in there. I mean, there's a lot of things. And they can rule out the other people that would have been in the car. So they
Yeah.
can say, okay, well, this is Dylan's. This is
Did they
Bonnie's.
say what kind of car it was?
What
Did
kind
they
of car?
saw?
What was?
Like in the parking lot or did they already say who's
I
they knew
don't know
who's
any
car?
of that. That's like so far under the iceberg that I don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of like you. It's like you start listening to these things and I don't even know like how to put it. There's too many players and there's too many
Yeah.
like what's happening.
Well, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you have to go and actually not listen to what three guys on a podcast say or what we say. You have to go and like verify this information with something.
Right.
And if you even, I mean, I've even found through the process of us doing this for 2 years that I can't trust a news article really, that they
Yeah.
have all the facts correct, because they'll say one thing, the other news article says another thing. And then at the end, when it's all said and done, you find out something a little bit different. So it's really hard unless you're an investigator. And even then, I'm sure they get discrepancies. I mean, the three girls that were at the park there in Delphi, their stories keep changing. They say different things, different times. Like, so you have to kind of understand that we are humans fallible.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
well, that was a good one. I
Whew.
don't think that she killed herself. I think that she was killed, but I guess I don't matter.
Yeah. I don't, that was sad. I mean,
Well,
God, part of me is like, if it was her, like that's a lot to do. If it wasn't her, 7 years of torture. I
I
don't
do
know.
not think that was her. I don't think she would do that.
Anyway, I was trying to find a good story because this has been pretty heavy the last couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
I couldn't really find anything that was interesting, a good, interesting story, but I'll keep
Well,
looking.
you know what? I think you should stay curious, stay suspicious, and stay open.